Good evening and welcome. We want to start the show. Please come inside and take your seat. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. We want to start the event. Please take your seat. Thank you. Shh.
Good evening, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rabbi Eli Edelkop, the Director of the European Jewish Development Fund. It is my pleasure to have your company tonight at our gala dinner. We sincerely thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, October 7th was a tragedy. This evening, on entering the dinner, you will have noticed an empty table, set for those still in Hamas captivity. The youngest, Kfir, had his first birthday last week. Let us take a moment of silence to remember all those innocents who have lost their lives since October 7th and those still in Hamas captivity. Please stand up. Thank you. You may be seated. For those experiencing their first event with the European Jewish Association, we have prepared a brief video outlining who we are and our mission. Thank you for your attention.
The EJA exists to make life better for Jews in Europe, free from hate, free from ignorance, free of anti-Semitism, free to grow, free to be.
We know that in every challenge, Jews have faced challenges. Time and time again, the links in our long, unbroken chain have been put under immense pressure. During the Holocaust, they were almost broken completely.
In a continent that should know better, anti-Semitism, the oldest hatred, still persists. Anti-Semitism includes anti-Zionism too, the latest manifestation of anti-Semitism, hatred of the Jewish state and all it stands for.
Combattre l'antisémitisme, combattre l'antisionisme, et on doit également faire très attention en Europe à toutes les lois qui pourraient donner raison aux antisémites, aux lois qui pourraient remettre en cause la présence juive en Europe. C'est fondamental de combattre l'antisémitisme, l'antisionisme et de maintenir une vie juive possible dans les différents pays d'Europe.
The EJA's work is appreciated by politicians, diplomats, and by Jews across Europe. This is because they know that all of our activities are directed solely for the benefit of Jewish life, from the communities we serve right down to the individual Jew on their journey through life. That's why we take leading politicians and diplomats from across Europe to concentration camps and ghettos across Europe.
To remember, yes, but also to find modern answers to an age-old problem.
We light a candle to remember those who perished and those who survived, burdened with unimaginable hardships. It is our sacred duty never to forget, never to remain silent, never again.
To find solutions and to enact laws to make life better and safer for all.
Anti-Semitism has no place in our societies. We will never tolerate the Jews' fears for their safety in the European Union.
An old evil is resurfacing in Europe. Swastikas have been painted on the homes of Jews. Synagogues have been vandalized.
I really hope we can build a world without anti-Semitism, without racism, without discrimination.
The European Jewish Association fills an essential role, working in conjunction with European institutions, the Parliament and regional national parliaments, combating anti-Semitism in all its forms, empowering Jewish communities, and strengthening Jewish life all across the continent.
The EJA is all about a Jewish future, a future that is in our hands.
Jewish communities are lifeblood of Jewish life, but too many are being left behind or are stuck in decline.
The EJA brings communities together, from the biggest to the smallest, for important conferences, to make bonds, to share best practice, and to be part of something bigger than themselves.
We connect them with key decision makers and policymakers in their own countries. And where the needs are greatest, we offer rabbinical, security, and charitable support.
One of the most important missions for the European Jewish Association is to work together with Jewish communities and organizations from across the continent to ensure, together with governments, universities, and authorities, that Jewish people in Europe will be able to live with security, a full freedom of religion. There are many challenges and much to do, but together we could do it.
The EJA was born from a vision to ensure no Jewish community is left behind. From large cities to small towns, everyone has a seat at the table in shaping the Jewish future. Now, please join me in welcoming the chairman of the European Jewish Association, Rabbi Menachem Margolin, to the stage for his insights.
Distinguished guests, distinguished leaders, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today not only to remember the 6 million Jews who were brutally murdered and burned by the Nazi and their helpers. We also came to work together so what happened will never happen again. Jewish history is long. In it, there have been many disasters for the Jewish people, but they were murdered. And not only because it was the first time in history that a nation of intelligence and with a rich culture coldly initiated and planned a methodical plan to destroy completely another nation. It is also because the Jews has no way. For those who were hated because they were rich, it would not help to give up their money. For those who were hated because they were different, it would not help to change their look and try to blend into the environment. And for those who were hated because of their Jewish faith, it would not help to convert to another religion. No, it couldn't help because, ladies and gentlemen, these are not the reasons. They are just excuses for a deep and irrational hatred towards the Jewish people. So how do you fight against anti-Semitism when you can't understand the reason behind it? Because there are those who hated Jews because they were communists. At the very same time, other Jews were hated because they were capitalists. Jews were hated because they looked different and distinct. At the very same time, Jews were hated for being too integrated. They hated Jews because they were rich. And at the very same time, they hated Jews because they are poor and spread diseases. But ladies and gentlemen, it was not only then. It is also today. Jewish people experience hatred and violence almost everywhere in the world. You heard today testimonies from Jewish leaders and students about the atmosphere of fear in universities and in schools, of children who are attacked in the streets. Almost every global crisis becomes an excuse to harm the Jews. And the hypocrisy, oh, the hypocrisy, and double standard of too many among the nations of the world. I have no doubt that if the Hague Tribunal had existed during the Holocaust, it would have charged the Jews for the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. Newspaper and advertising companies did not want to print ads calling for the release of the hostages, using nonsense excuses. So what should be done? Saul Teichmann was a very successful American Jewish businessman. During his lifetime, he helped, not only helped, but he helped anyone who turned to him. But more important, he was always invested time and efforts to help organizations, communities, and individuals. Someone once asked him, "Tell me, Mr. Teichmann, the fact that you help everyone who turns to you is already a special thing. But what is the engine that makes you constantly look for someone to help?" And Saul said to him, "I was 15 years old in Ungvar when the Nazis came to us in 1943. We knew nothing about them and what they already done to the Jews of Europe. One day, all the Jews were told to come to the train station. We got there and I waited in a long line of Jews. Suddenly, someone I did not know approached me, an elderly man with a beard, and asked me, 'Tell me, Teichmann, how old are you?' 'I'm 15 years old,' I replied. The Jew tells me, 'No, you are 18 years old. You was born in 1925. I told him, 'No, I was born in 1928. The Jew told me, 'No, I remember you were born. You are 18 years old and you were born in 1925. I was a naive teenager, and the Jew demanded that I repeat several times that I was born in 1925 and I am 18 years old. When I go to the end of the line, someone was standing there. Later I realized it was Dr. Mengele, and he asked me what year I was born. I told him that I was born in 1925, and then he sent me to stand with a group of people. Only later I learned that if I had answered that I was 15 years old, I would have been sent to the group of people who were sent to extermination. I still don't know who this person is. I just know that he was my angel. The angel who saved my life only thanks to his caring and just a few words. When I survived the camp, I decided that I also wanted to be an angel to other people. And since then, I wake up every morning and I think, for whom I will be an angel today. Dear leaders, this is the Jewish faith. No matter how much evil and hatred is directed towards Jews, Jews will not go around the world with hatred and sense of revenge, but the opposite. Millions of Jews all over the world and in all generations, then and now, are engaged in making this world a better place. The Nazis did everything they could, not only to destroy the Jews, but try to erase the Jewish idea. They humiliated Jews. They took their names and gave them numbers. They shaved all their body hair. They forced them to defecate in front of hundreds of people, everything to humiliate them and erase their identity. But it did not help them. At least 6 Holocaust survivors won the Nobel Prize. Many won other prestige prizes. Hundreds of thousands started building families again, started over again, and put a lot of efforts into making this world a better world. The nation of Israel is a nation whose tragedies and disasters only unite us. And when we are united, God helps us. Dear leaders, we live in a time where there are many people, politicians, celebrities, who are simply afraid to take a stand and be on the right side of history, just because they are afraid of losing Instagram followers or voters. The human mind, and you all know it, is very, very flexible. Unfortunately, we saw and we keep seeing how with cheap manipulation, people could be led to do anything. But you also know that most people in the world are followers, and therefore, the stronger people must take the responsibility and lead the rest of humanity to good places. Real leaders are those who do not follow loud and vocal groups, but those who do the right thing and stand on the right side of history without fear. And there is no doubt that the fact that you are here today shows that your heart is in the right place. Combating anti-Semitism means taking a determined decision to be an example to the people you represent and lead them without fear to the right path. Never again, ladies and gentlemen, is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi Margolin. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, wrote a powerful and insightful piece in l'Express magazine, drawing parallels with Zola's description of French anti-Semitism 126 years ago. Mr. Manuel Valls referred to the case against Israel brought by South Africa to The Hague as the Dreyfus Affair of our time. He bravely talked about their effort to portray the world's only Jewish state in a negative light, revealing a political group with anti-Jewish views supported by a growing electorate. It is a refreshing viewpoint due to its clear truth. Thank you, former Prime Minister Manuel Valls, not only for this article, but for years of dedicated service in supporting Jews in France. Your efforts were noticed, deeply appreciated, and though you are no longer in office, your voice remains significant and meaningful. A voice of reason. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to invite Mr. Manuel Valls, the former Prime Minister of the French Republic, to address our gala dinner. Mr. Valls, the floor is yours. We gave out headsets for translation. They're doing it. Anyone who did not receive a headset, please reach out to the stewardess next to you to get one.
I'm sorry, but my English is too bad. Yes, thank you very much. OK. Bon, c'est toujours difficile de venir perturber un dîner. Mais je veux d'abord remercier évidemment le président Rivlin, tous les responsables de l'IGA pour cette invitation. Je suis venu plusieurs fois à Auschwitz-Birkenau. Mais comme mon ami Joël Mergui ce matin, je ne pouvais pas imaginer que nous puissions nous retrouver de nouveau en Europe à penser le pire et les conséquences de ce qui est, je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, un tournant majeur pour la civilisation occidentale, mais je crois au-delà pour le monde, je veux parler des événements du 7 octobre. Il y a plus de 20 ans, j'ai fait partie de ceux, je n'étais pas le seul, mais parmi les responsables politiques, nous n'étions pas très nombreux, à m'inquiéter à la fois de la montée de l'antisémitisme et des ravages de l'islamisme. C'était au moment de la deuxième intifada, après le 11 septembre, et puis aussi au moment de Durban, en 2001, qu'on a eu trop tendance à oublier. Mais aujourd'hui, nous assistons à un véritable basculement historique, politique, culturel, anthropologique. Et le terrain, c'est celui de la planète. L'horreur perpétrée le 7 octobre concerne évidemment au premier chef Israël et le monde juif. Mais nous aurions tort de considérer que ce n'est que le problème d'Israël et du monde juif. C'est le problème de toute l'humanité. Et je crois que c'est l'enjeu fondamental qui est devant nous. Nous devons évidemment prendre conscience de ce qui est en train de se passer. La complaisance vis-à-vis du Hamas, la haine d'Israël, l'explosion, le tsunami même que représente l'antisémitisme aujourd'hui dans le monde depuis 3 mois, à tous les niveaux. Cette haine des Juifs et cette haine d'Israël qui me paraît la meilleure définition de l'antisémitisme. Évidemment, cet antisémitisme, il est toujours nourri par cet antisémitisme traditionnel, séculaire, qui plonge ses racines dans les origines du christianisme et qui a ensuite été développé par l'extrême droite. Il est sans doute minoritaire, mais nous aurions tort en Europe ou aux États-Unis d'Amérique de considérer qu'il n'est que résiduel. Nous avons vu aussi toutes les thèses complotistes se développer, en particulier au moment de la Covid-19. Mais disons clairement les choses, c'est aujourd'hui au sein même du monde arabo-musulman qu'il se développe, et donc en Europe, là où ce monde, à travers l'immigration, est présent. J'avais constaté déjà cela quand j'étais élu de la banlieue de la région de Paris, il y a plus de 20 ans. Je me rappelle toujours d'une enseignante dans un quartier populaire, comme on dit, où l'immigration est très présente, qui s'était adressée à moi en pleurs, parce qu'à la question posée à des enfants de moins de 10 ans, « Quel est ton ennemi ?», un de ses enfants lui avait répondu « C'est le juif ». En 2014, nous avions déjà assisté à Paris à des manifestations pour le Hamas, au moment de l'une des guerres à Gaza, et contre Israël, qui avait réuni les islamistes, l'extrême droite identitaire, mais aussi l'extrême gauche. Et j'avais été de ceux qui avaient alerté sur ce qui était en train de se passer dans l'antisémitisme à travers l'antisionisme, pour des raisons idéologiques, pour des raisons électorales, et aujourd'hui elle est soutenue par les phénomènes liés au wokisme, à la cancel culture dans les universités américaines ou européennes. Je suis frappé par exemple par le fait, et cela a été dit tout au long de cette journée également, qu'une grande partie des mouvements féministes n'ont rien dit à l'occasion de ce qui a été aussi un véritable féminicide de 7 octobre, à travers les viols et la volonté d'humilier des femmes parce qu'elles étaient juives. Il y a un grand silence dans ce monde militant ou intellectuel. Il y a évidemment le rôle d'un certain nombre d'institutions internationales. Et je ne peux pas taire mon inquiétude sur le rôle des Nations Unies et d'un certain nombre d'organismes qui, depuis des années, mais encore ces dernières semaines, tiennent un discours, et je suis modéré, ambigu à l'égard de ce qui s'est passé le 7 octobre. Et puis il y a bien sûr, puisque nous parlerons éducation, surtout ce qui se passe sur les réseaux sociaux, avec derrière la Russie, l'Iran, la Chine, la Turquie. Ces réseaux sociaux que nous avons évoqués tout à l'heure avec Elon Musk, j'ai quelques doutes encore, après ses propos sur ce qui peut se passer sur X, mais évidemment, je veux dire combien je suis préoccupé à propos de TikTok, qui est en train de formater le récit d'une partie de la jeunesse sur ce qui se passe au Proche-Orient. Et moi, je suis convaincu qu'au-delà des batailles politiques et culturelles, l'Europe doit se poser le problème de l'interdiction de ce réseau social qui est en train de faire des dégâts considérables pour notre avenir. Enfin, je veux insister, comme je l'ai fait tout à l'heure, sur le fait que nous devons dire beaucoup plus clairement les choses, nous, responsables politiques et leaders européens, notamment à propos de l'antisionisme. Cet antisionisme, c'est de l'antisémitisme. C'est la haine des Juifs et c'est la haine d'Israël. Et là-dessus, nous devons être intransigeants. Nous devons être très clairs aussi sur ce qu'est la nature du Hamas. Je n'y reviens pas, je l'ai développé cet après-midi. Mais cela nous oblige à interpeller, notamment vis-à-vis de ceux qui prônent une solution à 2 États, une solution politique pour les Palestiniens, de leur dire, comme le ressentent profondément les Israéliens, que cette solution n'est possible que si la sécurité d'Israël est préservée et que si les Palestiniens rompent clairement, nettement avec le Hamas et avec l'idéologie de l'islam politique qui aujourd'hui, en Israël, en Europe et dans le monde, s'attaque directement aux Juifs et aux valeurs de l'Occident. Et de ce point de vue-là, et c'est aussi quelque chose que je veux dire avec la plus grande clarté et la plus grande fermeté, nous devons nous adresser aux musulmans européens. L'Europe a des vieilles racines juives et chrétiennes. L'Europe s'est construite grâce aussi aux Lumières et à la démocratie libérale. L'Europe a vécu les horreurs en assumant ses responsabilités du XXe siècle. L'Europe accueille, ça n'est pas nouveau, ça a été vrai en Espagne il y a très longtemps, mais accueille depuis peu des millions de musulmans. Et la force de l'Europe, c'est de faire vivre des valeurs communes qui sont celles de la démocratie, de la tolérance et du partage. Mais avec ce qui s'est passé le 7 octobre, nous devons au fond interpeller tous les peuples et tous les citoyens sur notre responsabilité collective et individuelle. Et au sein même des communautés musulmanes, il faut que le débat soit clarifié. La bataille au sein même de l'islam, avec la montée de l'islamisme et de l'islam politique, oblige à une clarification et à une rupture très claire avec ceux et celles qui prônent la disparition d'Israël et un discours profondément antisémite et anti-juif. Si cette clarification n'a pas lieu, je crains des ruptures, des séparations et la montée de tous les populismes qui veulent s'en prendre aux musulmans en Europe. Nous sommes dans un moment clé, à une heure de vérité qui oblige précisément à la clarté. Et je termine parce que je suis déjà trop long. J'avais dit en janvier 2015 que sans les Français juifs, la France ne serait pas la France. Le judaïsme il y a 75 ans, a failli disparaître totalement d'Europe. L'antisémitisme aujourd'hui, la haine des Juifs et d'Israël qui se propage dans le monde, est d'une nature, parce que nous sommes devenus un petit village, la planète, sans commune mesure à ce que nous avons pu connaître dans le passé. Ce que j'ai ressenti en Israël, où je vais depuis 1982, je suis allé des dizaines de fois, mais lors de mes 2 déplacements derniers depuis le 7 octobre, c'est une angoisse profonde à étreint le monde juif, en Israël et partout. Où sommes-nous en sécurité? Cette question, elle est posée en Israël, mais elle est posée aux Juifs dans le monde entier. Mais ce que je veux dire par là, c'est que l'Europe sans l'âme juive ne serait plus l'Europe. Si les Juifs partent d'Europe, poussés par l'antisémitisme, alors l'Europe ne sera pas l'Europe. Nous perdrons quelque chose qui est profondément ancré dans chacun des pays, et bien sûr en France, et je parle comme ancien chef du gouvernement français. Alors, ce défi, nous devons être capables de le relever. Et dans l'article que j'ai écrit pour le journal L'Express, et qu'on a bien voulu traduire dans d'autres organes de presse en Europe, j'accusais en effet ceux qui se livraient à cette opération par complicité active ou passive, qui consiste précisément à nier ce qu'est l'âme juive européenne. Et puisque nous sommes ici Européens, puisque nous nous battons pour nos valeurs, pour la démocratie, pour la solidarité entre les peuples, j'appelle à une mobilisation immense, sans commune mesure à ce que nous avons fait jusqu'à maintenant, pour préserver cette âme juive qui est celle de l'Europe, pour préserver les valeurs universelles qui sont celles de l'Occident et qui nous lient à tout jamais avec cet État d'Israël, ce petit État d'Israël, mais qui porte tellement d'espoir, tellement de valeurs, avec qui l'histoire nous lie à tout jamais, et c'est ce combat que je vous invite à relever. Merci infiniment.
Thank you, Mr. Valls, for your words. We will never forget the speech you gave on the 13th of January 2015 in the French Assembly. Merci beaucoup encore. Ladies and gentlemen, October the 7th was an atrocity, the worst loss of innocent Jewish life since the Holocaust. Since that day of awful barbarity, the entire Jewish people were changed. Nothing could have prepared us for it. Yet, even in such a tragedy, there are people who show the best of humanity. Sergeant Aner Shapira from Jerusalem attended the Supernova concert in the south when the Hamas terrorists started their indiscriminate killing. Aner hid with dozens of others in a small shelter and with supreme bravery saved many lives with his bare hands. Each time the terrorists threw in a grenade, he threw it back. Not once, not twice, but 8 times. The last one, tragically, exploded in his hands and killed him. Please pay attention to the screen.
On the morning of October 7th at 6:30 a.m., terrorist squads broke through the border fence and entered Israel with the aim of murdering, raping, and looting anything in their path. At 7 a.m., the terrorists stormed the Nova music party near Kibbutz Re'im. The partygoers fled for their lives and sought shelter. Aner Shapira of blessed memory attended the party to celebrate life. As soon as the attack began, he was shot at and had to hide in the nearby shelter. Took command, calming down those seeking shelter inside, He began to plan a defense and attack strategy. The sounds of gunfire got closer and closer. Aner stood at the entrance to the shelter with a broken glass bottle in his hand and prepared for the attack. Hamas terrorists surrounded the shelter and began throwing hand grenades into it, intending to kill all those hiding inside. The first grenade was thrown in. Aner grabbed the grenade and threw it out of the shelter. The same thing for the second grenade, and the third and fourth. Shapira managed to block 7 grenades until the 8th grenade. It exploded in his hand and killed him. Aner Shapira of blessed memory was 22 years old at the time of his murder. He is a model and a true example of heroism. A hero who says his life and her life are more important than mine. In his death, he saved 8 friends from certain death. And in his death, he leaves us a legacy of life. May his memory be for an eternal blessing.
Aner is a hero, but heroes are not born, they are made, shaped by the parents. Tonight, we are incredibly proud to have Aner's parents with us. I would like to invite Shira and Moshe to join me on stage to say a few words. Please give them a very warm welcome. I would also like to invite Mr. Amichai Shikli,
Dear Chairman, Menachem Margolin, dear distinguished guests, we thank you for inviting us to this special event. After the Second World War, most of our family became extinct. And a family of history more than 1,000 years in Europe came to an end. Today, after lunch, I visited here in Krakow the grave of one of my forefathers, Natan Neta Shapiro, who lived here in the 16th century and is buried here in Krakow. 80 years ago, my grandparents were left without family members. My mother was barely saved when a day after Kristallnacht, her parents fled Berlin without knowing if there would be a country that they would be accepted. My grandfather, Moshe Shapiro, who would later be one of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence of Israel, invested all his energy during the war in saving Jews. As part of this effort, he did not hesitate and arrived in occupied Vienna in 1939 on behalf of the Jewish Agency, standing proudly and courageously before Adolf Eichmann in the Gestapo office. He managed to save thousands of Vienna's Jews. Exactly 99 years after the day of my grandfather was born, on the same date, our beloved son Aner was born.
Aner, the eldest of our 7 kids, lived a whole life of music, art, morality, generosity, and pursuit of justice. He was a sportsman, a musician, a man of ideas, an artist, a born leader, and a good friend to all those around him. In the army, he became an outstanding fighter in the Nachal elite unit. On October 7th, as you saw, Aner was on leave from the army and went to the Music Nova Festival, celebrating peace and the love of music. When Hamas launched the attack, Aner found himself in a small concrete shelter with about 30 people whom he did not know. They weren't his friends. He didn't know them, only one friend. He was the last to arrive to the shelter and saw immediately how scared and confused people were. He took command, calmed down the occupants of the shelter, and explained the situation to them. When they heard the terrorists approaching, they all lay down on the floor and covered their heads with their hands. Aner stood at the entrance to the shelter and decided that he won't let the terrorists enter. He held a broken glass bottle in his hand and prepared to fight back. But as you saw, the terrorists were afraid to go inside and started throwing grenades into the shelter. Aner told everyone that he would try to toss the grenades back, but if he missed some or was injured, they should follow him. And so, grenade after grenade, Aner managed to toss 7 of them back until the 8th one exploded in his hands and overwhelmed him. After Aner could no longer protect and prevent the terrorists from entering, they entered, took 4 people hostage, and shot the others.
In 1942, in the middle of the war, my grandfather gave a speech and said, "In these dark days of war and terror, when fog and darkness covered the land, and our brothers and sisters in Europe subjected to the most horrible suffering, abuse, humiliation, and murder, hardship and captivity, we, believers, all human of all Jewish people, but this is also a hopeful time. Through the veil of blood and fire, the first signs of the fall of the Nazi tyrant are already visible in the distant horizon. Despite deep disappointment, we do not despair of the hope that from the ruins of the sinking world, a world of kindness will be built, in which the Jewish people will also find solace and redemption in their homeland.
There is no more complete expression of redemption than the heroic act of our son Aner. Aner stood alone in the face of an evil that has not been seen since the days of the Nazis, and chose to fight the evil. It was his conscience-free resolution. Nobody gave him orders, and he had neither uniform nor weapons. A genuine freedom fighter who with his bare hands saved the lives of several people whom he did not know and survived to tell us his story. He could not save his own life, but 11 people were saved thanks to him on the 7th of October. Unfortunately, 4 of them are kidnapped by Hamas, and we pray every moment for their speedy release and safe return with all other hostages. Aner left a will for generations to come. In the face of evil and cruelty, you can and you should stand, even with bare hands. By taking a moral stand with courage, human solidarity, and love, lives can be saved. We want to end with one of Aner's poems. He wrote, I am a human being. He wrote in Hebrew, I will tell it in English. I am a human being who believes in change. Never mind change. It is enough to be a human being who believes. Okay, so I am a human being who believes. Never mind believing. It's enough to be a human, to be a mensch.
I would also like to invite Mr. Amichai Shikli, Israeli Minister of Diaspora and Combating Anti-Semitism, Mr. Mark Grossman, a supporter of the European Jewish Association and a businessman, Mrs. Estrella Benchio, President of Madrid's Jewish Community, and Rabbi Menachem Margolin.
Shira, Moshe, it is my great honor on behalf of the European Jewish Association in loving and blessing memory of Aner, a true hero.
Main course will be served.
President Rivlin, distinguished members of the European Jewish Association, esteemed attendees of the Auschwitz Conference, ladies and gentlemen, I am joining you today via this pre-recorded message from the Czech Republic, a nation mindful of its history and its role in the fight against anti-Semitism. Today, as we gather in the shadow of Auschwitz, a symbol of the darkest chapters in human history, we are reminded of the importance of our collective vigilance against the resurgence of anti-Semitism. Since the despicable attack by Hamas on October 7th, we have observed an alarming escalation in anti-Semitic incidents across Europe. This surge, however, is not an isolated occurrence. It is part of the longer, deeply concerning trend, also due to the influx of illegal migrants from the Middle East and North Africa. These migrations have unfortunately introduced and spread intolerant ideologies, contributing significantly to the rise of anti-Semitism. We have seen the manifestation of this hatred all across Europe, in Berlin, London, Paris, Dublin, Vienna, where anti-Semitic demonstrations have become worryingly frequent. Fortunately, the Czech Republic and most Central and Eastern European states have been mostly immune to these developments. I attribute this to our firm stance against illegal migration, a policy that has helped safeguard our communities from the spread of extremist ideologies. As the chairman of ANO, the largest party in Czech parliament, I want to reassert our solid support for Israel, a nation that has faced relentless adversity since its foundation. Our backing for Israel is a cornerstone of our foreign policy, reflecting our commitment to democracy and the right of nations to live in peace. In conclusion, this forum presents an opportunity for us to recommit to the fight against anti-Semitism. It is imperative that we continue to stand together in this effort, ensuring that the lesson of history guide our actions today. Thank you for your attention and commitment to this vital cause.
The establishment of this Forum of European Leaders to fight against anti-Semitism and racism is a demonstration of a common concern and of a common responsibility. We all observe in our respectives of hostility and discrimination against minorities with obvious intentions and implications of anti-Semitism and racism. We can observe those developments in social organizations, in political parties, in universities, in sports activities, in commercial entities, and of course, in a variety of media, particularly in so-called social media, increasingly. Given our historic experiences of the past, we share a common responsibility for the future of Europe as a safe place for human dignity, individual liberty, freedom of religion, tolerance, and solidarity. We fight to defend those values and principles. And we encourage our fellow citizens to join us in supporting these efforts. The establishment of this Forum of European Leaders to
They say sunlight is the best sanitizer. And tonight, let's replace sunlight with education. Hatred, especially anti-Semitism, comes from ignorance. Unfortunately, in history, ignorance fueled hate. And back then, education wasn't a right, but a privilege. Today, there are no excuses. In our hyper-connected world, information is at our fingertips. Yet, ignorance, and hate persist. Education is crucial in our battle against anti-Semitism. And tonight we are fortunate to have a dedicated supporter in this fight with us. It is my pleasure to ask the Italian Minister of Education of the Italian Republic, His Excellency, Mr. Giuseppe Valditara, to share his priorities with you. And we want to thank the Italian Prime Minister, Mrs. Giorgia Meloni, for her support to the State of Israel and the Jewish community, including the memories of the Holocaust and October 7. Minister, the floor is yours.
President Rivlin, dear European Jewish Association, distinguished guests. It is a great honor to meet you here in Krakow, near the places that have witnessed the Holocaust. The memory of the innocent victims of the Shoah and the fight against anti-Semitism are an important part of the Italian political heritage that the Ministry of Education and Merit honors and passes on to the new generations, so that those atrocities will never happen again. For this reason, we are deeply concerned about the worrying increase in anti-Semitism worldwide, following the terrorist attack by Hamas against Israel. October the pogrom, 80 years after the Holocaust, it has unleashed, even here in Europe, a worrying intensification of episodes of anti-Semitism. We face an increase in distortion and manipulation of information related to the terrorist attack and the ongoing war. In Europe, too, we are witnessing daily and unacceptable and trivial use of terms and concepts related to the Shoah to demonize Israel and Jewish people in general. We are really concerned about the escalating forms of discrimination and verbal abuse against Jewish people in public spaces, schools and universities, which must be harshly condemned and sanctioned. Israel has the full right to exist, and everyone should accept it. The embargo against Israel University is simply a shame. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. We must all have the courage and integrity to condemn unconditionally Hamas, that is a terrorist organization, and we must condemn all form of integralism and intolerance. Memory and transmission of memory serves to keep events firmly in our minds, and with them our values, such as the value of human dignity. The memory of the Shoah and the fight against anti-Semitism are fundamental themes that pervade many of the educational initiatives organized by the Italian Ministry of Education and Merit. Altogether, we strengthen the role of education for the construction of democratic citizens, encouraging opportunities for dialogue, mutual and understanding and respect. Europe and Israel are tightly bound. Europe has Judaic-Christian roots. We share the same democratic and human values and jointly stand up for them. Let me conclude, never again is now.
Thank you, Minister. Our next speaker tonight, Monsieur Joël Mergui, is an exemplary European Jewish leader. He is inspiring, encouraging, and someone who takes pride in representing the community's interests. Please join us on stage, Mr. Mergui. Headsets for translation.
Chers amis, je vais m'exprimer en français, donc je vous laisse le temps de mettre les oreillettes. Monsieur le Président de l'État d'Israël, Monsieur Roubi Rivlin, Monsieur le Ministre de la Diaspora, Monsieur Chikli, Monsieur le Président d'Yad Vashem, cher Menachem Margolin, Président de l'EJE, mais Monsieur le Premier ministre, Messieurs les ministres, anciens ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les parlementaires, cette journée importante de réflexion, demain, nous visiterons Auschwitz. Demain, nous verrons de nos yeux l'horreur qu'a subi notre peuple il y a 80 ans. Tout à l'heure, nous entendrons un témoin de la Shoah. Mes chers amis, je n'imaginais pas comme vous dans ma vie, dans la grande synagogue de Paris, la grande synagogue de la Victoire, où quelques jours après le 7 octobre, nous nous sommes réunis pour pleurer nos morts, pour prier pour le retour des otages, pour prier pour la victoire d'Israël. Je n'imaginais pas dans cette synagogue où tous les ans nous entendons les témoins de la Shoah, qu'on entendrait dans le monde les mêmes témoignages que ceux qu'on entend de nos anciens, mais comme on vient de l'entendre, des parents de Ner Shapira. Je n'imaginais pas qu'on vivrait ce moment dans ce monde d'aujourd'hui. Nous finissons cette journée comme beaucoup de journées de réflexion et nous pouvons nous dire ensemble, malheureusement, même si j'essaie d'être un optimiste, tout va mal. Ça va mal. Le monde va mal. Le peuple juif va mal. Nous avons entendu ce matin des responsables de différentes communautés juives qui racontent les uns qu'on ne peut pas aller à l'université, qu'on ne peut plus porter la kippa, qu'on enlève la mezouza, qu'on se fait agresser dans la rue, qu'il y a des manifestations dans lesquelles on crie mort aux juifs. On pourrait penser que tout va mal. Israël est conspué par un certain nombre de nations, se battent, mais qui ont été agressées en pleine fête, dans leur domicile, alors que dans certains kibbutzim, ce jour-là, ils avaient l'habitude d'envoyer des cerfs-volants pour dire « nous sommes pour la paix ». Et ce qu'ils reçoivent en échange, ce sont des missiles et des roquettes. Ce n'est plus possible que l'État juif, reconstruit après la Shoah, puisse vivre sous la menace permanente du Hamas, des missiles. Ce n'est plus possible que je vois mes petits-enfants, comme tous les petits-enfants d'Israël, devoir avoir peur des sirènes, se réfugier dans des abris, pendant qu'en face, dans les abris, on réfugie des armes, au lieu de réfugier des hommes et des enfants. pendant qu'en face, le Hamas prend comme bouclier humain des enfants palestiniens pour rendre coupable le peuple d'Israël d'avoir tué des Palestiniens parce que ils couvrent des roquettes et des missiles. Mes chers amis, oui, ça va mal dans le monde et nous sommes la première cible. Mais si nous sommes la première cible, l'histoire nous l'a montré à maintes reprises, c'est qu'ensuite c'est le monde libre, le monde démocratique qui est également la cible. Ne nous perdons pas. À Cracovie, il y avait des milliers de Juifs qui vivaient. En Europe, combien de milliers d'entre nous, de millions, ont disparu? Combien de familles, combien d'avenirs on aurait pu avoir? Et voilà qu'Israël se reconstruit. Et qu'Israël et le peuple juif sont la cible d'une nouvelle haine avec une idéologie, celle de l'islamisme radical, qui veut s'attaquer aux Juifs et qui veut s'attaquer à l'ensemble du monde. Alors, ce que nous allons voir demain, c'est ce que nous n'avons plus envie de revoir. Et le peuple juif n'est pas prêt à revivre cette tragédie. Il y a une grande différence entre ce qui s'est passé et aujourd'hui. C'est que d'abord, ça s'est passé, et deuxièmement, l'État d'Israël existe. Et je voudrais remercier ici les représentants de l'État d'Israël pour le combat qu'ils mènent pour Israël, pour le peuple juif et pour le monde entier. Je voudrais vous remercier parce que vous avez le devoir de défendre Israël, parce qu'en défendant Israël, vous défendez l'avant-garde de l'Occident, vous défendez le monde, vous défendez l'humanité. Je voudrais aussi dire que je n'ai aucun complexe en tant que Français, qu'Européen, à soutenir l'armée d'Israël de Tsahal. On aurait pu se dire qu'on soutient une armée étrangère. Non, on soutient une armée de la liberté, on soutient une armée qui a une éthique, on soutient une armée qui défend les nations en défendant sa terre et en défendant son peuple. Alors si je disais que le monde va mal, il y a quelque chose qui m'a fait très mal. C'est qu'au lendemain du 7 octobre, dans tous les médias du monde, on a commencé à dire « les Juifs enlèvent leur kippa, les Juifs ont peur ». Et je me suis tout de suite opposé, Emmanuel m'a entendu à plusieurs reprises le dire en France, je me suis tout de suite opposé à l'idée de dire que les Juifs ont peur. Et mes chers amis, je voudrais m'adresser à tous les responsables des communautés juives d'Europe. Les Juifs n'ont pas peur. Les Juifs sont fiers des valeurs qu'ils portent. Les Juifs sont fiers de l'identité que nous portons. Les Juifs sont fiers de la kippa qu'ils portent sur la tête, des tzitzit qu'ils ont, de la Torah qu'on nous a enseignée, des valeurs humanistes que nous portons. Alors continuons, fierté, à construire nos synagogues, à construire notre identité, à croire en notre avenir. Et je voudrais m'adresser ce soir à tous les amis non juifs, élus ou non, qui viennent nous soutenir. Demain, vous serez à Auschwitz. Mais il y a eu Auschwitz et il y a eu les justes. Et je voudrais, sous le contrôle du président d'Yad Vashem, dire que les seules personnes qui ont pu être reconnues justes parmi les nations, ce sont les non-juifs qui ont aidé les juifs. Et dans le moment que nous vivons, le combat que nous devons mener, il y a le combat des juifs pour continuer à vivre, pour continuer à garder notre identité. Il y a le combat d'Israël pour la légitimité de son combat contre le Hamas et contre l'islamisme. Mais il y a le combat du monde entier. N'attendons pas une nouvelle Shoah, n'attendons qu'il y ait encore des meurtres, n'attendons pas qu'il y ait encore des roquettes, n'attendons pas qu'il y ait encore des atteintes contre l'État d'Israël. Nous attendons de tous nos amis de sortir d'une quelconque indifférence et d'être les nouveaux justes des temps modernes. Les nouveaux justes des temps modernes. Ceux qui dénoncent l'antisémitisme, ceux qui dénoncent l'antisionisme, ceux qui demandent à Israël de continuer son combat, ceux qui demandent au Hamas de baisser les armes, ceux qui demandent aux musulmans du monde entier de demander au Hamas d'arrêter d'utiliser les Palestiniens comme des boucliers, ceux qui demandent aux Palestiniens et particulièrement au Hamas d'arrêter de s'attaquer à Israël et aux Juifs. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, le réveil de toutes les nations est fondamental. Il ne faut pas attendre encore plus, il ne faut pas attendre qu'il y ait encore une deuxième journée de Shoah. Une a suffi pour que le monde se réveille. Alors, mes chers amis, continuez à faire que là où il y a des Juifs, ils aient envie de continuer à vivre. Parce que, en traversant la France et l'Europe, j'ai vu des banlieues, des villes où les Juifs sont partis, ce qu'on a appelé chez nous les territoires perdus de la République. Mais à chaque fois que des Juifs sont partis, c'est une partie de la démocratie qui a disparu. C'est vrai en France, c'est vrai en Europe. Alors, garder des Juifs à côté de vous, c'est s'assurer que la démocratie de chacun de vos pays est encore vivante. Et je ne voudrais pas me poser la question que je me suis posée il y a quelques semaines avec les représentants des différentes communautés juives d'Europe. Et si ça allait mal chez nous, dans quel pays pourrions-nous aller? Combien de fois dans notre histoire nous sommes posés cette question? Israël est là. Nous devons soutenir la légitimité de l'État d'Israël comme État juif et nous devons soutenir la légitimité des Juifs à vivre là où ils veulent dans le monde. Merci.
לא נפתח לי המסך. Thank you, Joël. Merci beaucoup. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Jewish Association's King David Award is given annually to an exceptional individual, someone who has gone above and beyond to uplift the Jewish people. To share more about this year's recipient, it is my pleasure to invite the president of the Jewish community of Barcelona, Mr. Raymond Farado, to the stage.
Dear President Rivlin, dear Chairman Kvod Rav Margolin, respected guests, the Mossos d'Esquadra, founded in 1721, constitute the police force of Catalonia. During the Civil War, they were dissolved, but in 1983, with the restoration of democracy in Spain, they resumed their role as the police in charge in the Catalan territory. During those challenging years, we faced intense neo-Nazi threats expressed both in hate speeches and violent acts. In response, our parents made the courageous decision to bring the Jewish institution of Barcelona closer to the reestablished police authority, aiming to build bridges of understanding. While today we perceive the fight against hate crimes as conventional, back then it was not the case. Our penal code did not explicitly include them, although the Mossos fought against every anti-Semitic hate crime. They led crucial investigations that enabled the prosecution of anti-Jewish acts. I would like to recall the closure of the Europa bookstore, achieving the first conviction in Spain for Holocaust denial. Conferences and events were organized there, featuring well-known Holocaust revisionists as anti-Semitic supremacists such as David Duke, David King, or Joaquin Bochaca. The work of the police was constant, impeccable, and committed, resulting in 1995 in the first conviction under the new criminal jurisdiction in Spain for Holocaust denial. Moreover, they have investigated websites with hate crime, acted against anti-Semitic concerts, and intervened in demonstrations, identifying and accusing those responsible who chant slogans like "Death to Jews," "Kill Jews," and "Death to Israel." The alignment of values between the Barcelona Jewish community I preside and the modern Catalan police institution reflects a shared vision that has been engraved in our DNAs. I conclude filled with emotion at being able to realize the vision of our parents. To the Chief Commissioner of the Mossos d'Esquadra, the Honorable Mr. Sayenti Peña, for the commitment in the fight against hate crimes and anti-Semitism. And that is written in the Psalms of King David, serà com un arbre que arrela vora l'aigua, dona fruit que empren. והיה כעץ שתול על כלפי מים, אשר פריו ייתן בעתו, ועלהו לא יבול, וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. sisplau, comissari, cap.
Police Commissioner-in-Chief of Catalonia, Mr. Sayenti Peña, please join me on stage. I would also like to invite President Rivlin, Mr. Joël Mergui, the President of the Consistoire du Paris, Mr. Philippe Hamon, a supporter of EJA and a businessman, and Rabbi Menachem Margolin. Please join me on stage in handing over the award.
I will just read what is written on the award before it will be presented. European Jewish Association King David Award 2024, awarded to Police Commissioner-in-Chief of Catalonia, with gratitude and in recognition of your work in protecting Jewish communities in Catalonia.
President Rivlin, Rabbi Margolin, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to everyone. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to the European Jewish Association for acknowledging the work of my police force, Mossos d'Esquadra, throughout many years. It's a great honor for us. Secondly, I also express the trust in us of the Jewish community of Barcelona and Catalonia. Without this trust, our work will be impossible and meaningless. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude, in particular, to its president, Mr. Forado, for his friendship. This award comes at a very special moment after the 7th October attack and the war against Hamas to change everything and everywhere. A time in which certain achievements tremble or even retreat, we see the resurgence of the violent extremism and anti-Semitism of all kinds, making hatred the core of its message. In the face of fanaticism and hatred, we must give a strong response and defend our democratic values, tolerance, the rule of law, and everyone's right to live safety. Nowadays, one of the main threats to democratic societies are extremists who legitimize the use of violence to achieve their goals. Violent extremism endangers the values and the principles of coexistence and peace, and they have an impact on people, their rights, and their personal development. There must be no impunity for those who do evil. The police is an instrument in the defense of the human rights and an important actor in guaranteeing people's freedom and security. For this reason, in Catalonia, we have always worked against these hate speeches and their violent expressions. Over the past 30 years, we have fought against neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and jihadists. We have pursued anti-Semitism and other hate crimes. We have been by the side of the Jewish community, ensuring its safety and under any circumstance. Over the course of the years, we have been at the forefront in Spain in the fight against anti-Semitism, bringing who denied the Holocaust to the justice and after to the jail, fighting white supremacist cells and jihadists, and taking actions against publications and groups that spread their hate threat. I accept this award full of pride on behalf of many officers who are the true recipients of these recognitions. And I do so with the confidence that tomorrow the sun will rise and the light up the morning. Never forget, never again. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, in these dark days, you need light. Our last speaker for tonight is among the brightest. In his 80s, just like President Rivlin, Mr. Gideon Lev is another Jew that simply won't give up. He traveled from Israel to join us, inspiring a new generation through his writing and his large following on TikTok and Instagram. What drives him to continue doing this? Gideon doesn't do it because he needs to understand. No, he does it because he wants you to understand. He wants you to understand that he lost 26 members of his family in the Holocaust, of his childhood in the Terezin ghetto. Against all odds, he survived, one of the few hundred who did. Despite Gideon's challenging experiences, he maintains a belief that people perform good deeds to enhance our society. It is my great honor to call Gideon to the stage and share a few moments of his extraordinary life with us.
Wow, what can I say to you? I'm overwhelmed that you invited me here. I'm not a president, not a vice president, not a professor, engineer, a government person. I don't know. We'll see. In any case, really, I'm very, very, very thankful to you all that you allow me to appear here before you. Now, if you clap too much, I won't have time to talk. I was already introduced. You already know my name is Gideon Lev. You already know that I spent 4 years in concentration camp in Theresienstadt, Terezin, Czechoslovakia. And perhaps now I can add to it that I was born in Czechoslovakia in 1935 to a Jewish, non-observant family. But I was a Jew. Hitler took over that part of the country, as we know, in 1938 at the Munich Agreement, without a Czech representative there. Mussolini, Hitler, Chamberlain, the French Prime Minister. Czechoslovakia doesn't exist. But Czechoslovakia now is the protectorate of Bohemia and Morava. We were living there. How old was I? 1938, I was 3. What did we do? The Germans were inside already the Sudeten. Jews had no rights. They couldn't work in government offices. They couldn't be lawyers. They couldn't be engineers. They couldn't be doctors. They couldn't sell. They couldn't buy. They were ostracized, separated from the rest of the population. My grandparents and my parents on my father's side couldn't sell. They had an Alteisengeschäft, which is a scrap iron yard. Scrap iron yard. You buy, you sell. Sometimes you don't even bring it to your yard. You buy and you sell it to somebody. But there are Jews. Who will buy from Jews? Who will sell to Jews? No one. 3 months later, my family picked up and went to Prague. At that time, Prague, I got dates a little bit mixed up. At that time, Prague was still Czechoslovakia. We went to Prague 3 months later. As I said before, Hitler took over everything. And the whole story repeated itself. Step by step, we came to Prague, lived right near the center, 3rd floor, and I was a little boy, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, not yet 5. And I remember something. There was a little park, a playground, just around the corner, and my grandpa, whom I loved dearly on my father's side, would take me, and there were swings there and slides there, playground for kids. And I would run to one of the mitkanim, one of the boats. There was like a schaukel, like a way that you can climb in, and they push. My grandpa pushed me, and I loved it. And then one day we come there, and my grandpa said, "No, 9. Why? What happened? What happened? And please." My name was Peter, and it wasn't Gideon. Peter, come. And he took me by his arms, and with my little fist, I hit him. And he said, "No, I'm sorry. We are Jewish, we can't." I didn't even know what it really meant to be Jewish. I was 4.5 years old, 5. He said, "You see here? You see the sign here? It says, Juden verboten." Juden verboten? What does it mean? What did I do? Was I a bad boy? So no, he tried to explain to me. And that was part of what was happening to the Jews in Bohemia and Morava. But it was only the beginning. Every day, every week, every month, new laws were being passed. What's a law? Jews can't ride on public transportation, only on certain cars and in the back, and only if there's room. Jews can go to any public place, like a pool, a playground, a library. Jews are not allowed. Jews can't own a bicycle. Any document the Jews had a J on it. Here, in the end, the last part, not the last part, but one of the parts that the Germans ordered, every Jew has to wear this. You can see it. This is an original. Here you see it. It was my mother's. But she was a little smart because we had to buy it. They didn't give it to us. But each 1 krone, a lot of money at that time. We didn't have money. So she did something clever. She bought one because you don't go out in a jacket, the same jacket every day. You have to sew it on. She said, "No, I'm not going to sew anything on. I'm going to pin it on like I have it here pinned. You can see it. And if I wear a sweater, I put it on a sweater. If I put it on my coat, I put it on my coat. If I go in a shirt, I put it on my shirt." So the Germans couldn't check every person, and they didn't, and she didn't get caught. And then finally, the next step. The next step, we have to resettle. Resettle, not settle, resettle. The Jews were settled in Prague, in Karlsbad, in Brno, in Bratislava. Now we're going to give them a town. Theresienstadt, Terezin. Army camp from before the First World War even. And shortly thereafter, they took 200 men, volunteers. Why volunteers? They said, "Oh, all those men between 18 and 35 who will go on these transport, their wives and children will follow them. So my father and my grandfather volunteered. And I can remember, they came to the hospital. I was in a hospital with tonsils having been removed. And I couldn't even talk. They brought me zmerzlina, glida, which is ice cream, because that's the only thing you can eat when you have your tonsils out. It's very painful. They explained to me, they're sending us to Theresienstadt. To Theresienstadt? What's Theresienstadt? What do I know? I was 5, a little bit over 5 years old. Yes, don't worry, Peter, don't worry. You will come to the same place. The Germans promised us. Well, German promises were usually not kept. Or this one was. He arrived in Theresienstadt on December 4th, 1941. 10 days later, my mother and I, and suitcases and bedrolls, were ordered to come to the train station. And if you can imagine a place like this, I mean, in my mind, this was huge, but of course it wasn't. I was only a little kid. And they said, no toilet facilities except for 2 people who were 200 mothers with little kids. Every person pushing a little bit. This is my place. No, this is not. I was here first. You know how people are. We're only humans. Even Jews are humans, turns out. And the next morning, they put us on a train, and we went to Theresienstadt. And we arrived, and I remember it was cold. You know, one of the things that I learned just a couple of days ago, we visited here the center of the town, and the first thing that I felt is the cold. And now I'm trying to imagine, and today also, in Auschwitz, cold. Just imagine these people there. Not only did they have warm clothing or shoes or hats, they had these terrible stripped garments, were thin, just standing for roll call or walking from one end to the other. Must have been horrific. Horrific. I can only tell you, I somehow survived. And you can, how did you? How does a child survive? I arrived there when I was not yet 6 years old in Terezin. I saw my father from a window, three stories up. This was the Dresden, I will show it to you, the Dresden barracks with a big yard here in the middle. And we couldn't go out at that time, out of that place. And the German soldier said, tomorrow morning, look out from your windows and you'll see the men going to work. Because some woman, as we were marching into Terezin, said, when do we see our husbands? And that's what the soldiers called us. And we did. The next morning we saw him. I saw my father marching in rows of 5, 50 in each group. And I called, Arnost, Ernst, Daddy, Abba. Not Abba because I didn't know Hebrew at that time, of course. Poland, for me, is a graveyard for my family. Without a grave, their bones, their eyelashes, their blood is in the earth of Poland. I'm here now because you invited me. I will never come back again. I find it horrific, truly. I arrived in Terezin as a 5.5-year-old boy. I was freed by the Russian army when I was 10 years old, in May 5th or 6th, once again by the Red Army. My father was in Terezin until 1944. From 1944, he was sent to Auschwitz. And by the way, people in Theresienstadt, in Terezin, did not know about the gas chambers or the shooting or the burning alive. That we knew, did not know that were mass killings. We knew it was bad. So when somebody was told they're being sent, everybody was afraid. The fear being sent to the east was constant and consistent. My father ended up in Auschwitz, in Birkenau, actually. He lived till January 17th, 1945. Then the Germans were retreating, and those that could follow and walk still, they took them with them on the death march. He stayed there. Perhaps, maybe, he could have lived and survived. He didn't. Death march was called the death march because for the most, it really was the end. Finished. Gamarno. Set to. I want to tell you, I arrived convinced, maybe a light of hope I found in a Zionist youth organization, Droe Chalutza Tzair, that we want a country. Palestine wasn't yet Israel. We will work there. We will not be doctors and lawyers and engineers. We'll be farmers. I arrived in November 1959. I was 25 years old. To plow the fields, to milk 200 cows a day, sometimes twice a day, and to make the land fruitful, better, even democratic for all its citizens, be they Arab, Muslims, Christians, Druze, Bedouins, and also us Jews. We deserve a country of our own. I am committed to that, and so is my family. I think that what happened here just on October 7th was so horrendous, I could hardly watch. I tried to convince